Digit really looked forward to the daily contacts. He often invited play by flopping over onto his back, waving his stumpy legs in the air, and looking at me smilingly, as if to say, "How can you resist me?" At such times, I fear my scientific detachment dissolved.
It was in January 1978 that Diane's researcher, Ian Redman, came across a sight so horrific that he hardly dared tell her what he'd found. It was the speared and mutilated corpse of her favorite, Digit. He had put up a fight to protect his family, killing one of the poacher's dogs. The poachers had decapitated Digit and cut off his hands. His body was carried back to Diane's camp.
He was more than a child in some ways to Diane. She simply couldn't come to terms with anybody taking his life. Although I'm sure she felt in her heart that it was to get back at her, which I think frustrated and upset her even more. She felt guilty that in some way, because of her bad relations with Rwandans, had caused his death. And I think that made her really hysterical. She was hysterical for months. She never got over it. I mean, she mentioned it over and over and over into the rest of her life.
There are times when one cannot accept facts for fear of shattering one's being. I have tried not to allow myself to think of Digit's anguish, pain, and the total comprehension he must have suffered in knowing what humans were doing to him. From that moment on, I came to live within an insulated part of myself.
When Digit was killed, it was a horrific event for me, but it's hard to imagine what it was like for Diane when she'd watched him from infancy reach maturity and then die in that way. Digit had actually been killed on the last day of 1977, and I think that was a turning point both in Diane's work and life, certainly in mine, but also in guerrilla conservation, because it really focused everyone's minds on what was then the main problem. 6 months after Digit was killed, Uncle Bert and Macho were killed and Quayle was wounded and then Quayle died. But the change came because Diane told everyone in the world that the gorilla that everyone had seen on the television screens as a friendly young Digit sitting next to Diane had been killed because some trader knew that he could sell a skull and hands to some visitor for $20.
I'm having horrid, horrid dreams that they will all be killed, and it is my fault. I can't even look their pictures in the eye.
She felt they were her private children, and she was appointed to take care of each and every one of them.